Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into a fascinating stack of source material you shared with us, all about daily habits, specifically the morning routines of, well, really successful people.
That's right. Yeah, we got a collection here of excerpts and notes, all about these powerful morning routines and the habits of top performers across loads of different fields. It's a really interesting look at how these folks kick off their day.
And our mission, it's pretty simple, really.
Right.
We're going to unpack the key insights from these specific sources, pull out the most important bits, and try to understand why the morning hours seem, well, so fundamental to success.
Hmm.
And crucially, how you, listening right now, can actually take these principles and apply them, no matter where you're starting from.
Yeah, think of this as your shortcut, really,
Yeah.
straight from these accounts, um, understanding what truly sets successful mornings apart.
So let's just dive right in then. Why is the morning such a big deal, according to this material? I mean, sometimes it feels like a lot of pressure, to be a morning person, and frankly, a lot of us feel like we just aren't.
Right.
What's the fundamental reason these sources keep coming back to the morning?
Well, what's really highlighted kind of consistently across this material is the idea that the morning is your anchor. It's presented as perhaps the only part of the day you can genuinely fully control.
Ah, okay.
The core idea seems to be if you're intentional about your morning, you kind of set the tone to win the whole day.
That makes sense. So it's about flipping from being reactive. Like,
Mm,
the first thing you do is grab your phone, see what the world wants, check emails, scroll social media,
exactly.
and instead being proactive about your own state first, your own mindset.
Absolutely. The
Mhm.
emphasis across these sources is really on protecting that morning space,
Mhm.
almost fiercely, making it like sacred time that's dedicated to you focusing on your mindset, your body, your goals, before all the external stuff starts pulling you in a million directions, the
Mhm.
demands, the potential chaos. It's really about filling your cup first, so to speak.
Okay, so if protecting that space and being proactive is the foundation, these sources also seem to identify a kind of shared blueprint, right? Like,
Yeah.
what actually goes into a powerful morning routine? What are the core elements they keep pointing to?
Yeah, they really boil down to um, about five key things that seem to appear again and again in successful routines.
Okay, what are they?
Right. So mindfulness or meditation first, then movement, then mindset work or journaling. Fourth is goal setting or visualization. And finally, learning or reading.
Huh. That five-part framework, it seems pretty comprehensive. Let's maybe take them one by one.
Ah.
First up, mindfulness or meditation. Why is this so often like the starting point?
Well, the research highlighted here points to it being about centering your mind.
Hmm.
It's basically a tool to ground yourself before the day's, onslaught begin.
Right.
Meditation is credited with helping reduce stress, sharpen focus, and even building emotional intelligence. It's really about gaining some control over your internal state first thing.
And what's interesting is the sources seem to emphasize you don't need to suddenly become a Zen master overnight.
Not at all.
Even just like 5 minutes is mentioned repeatedly as making a real difference.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Simple stuff like just sitting in silence, maybe focusing on your breath, or even using guided apps are suggested. And we see examples in these accounts like Ray Dalio, the investor, big proponent of transcendental meditation.
Oh, yeah.
And Oprah Winfrey incorporates it too. The whole idea is it's a fundamental practice for kind of mastering your inner world, which seems pretty crucial when you're dealing with high-stakes environment.
Okay, that makes sense. Moving from the inner world to the physical then, element number two, movement. I know Tony Robbins has that famous mini trampoline thing.
He does, yeah, and it gets mentioned that apparently it gets the lymphatic system going or something. But the real takeaway here, I think, is it doesn't need to be some, Ironman level workout first thing.
Oh, okay.
The sources are clear. A short walk, some light stretching, maybe some yoga, or even just 20 minutes of gentle movement is often enough. The purpose is just to wake up your body, get the blood flowing.
So literally just stretching counts. That feels much less intimidating.
Absolutely. Yeah, the material connects this simple movement to releasing those feel-good endorphins, improving brain function, boosting energy levels right at the start of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And they point out that pretty much every high performer they looked at, from figures like Richard Branson to athletes like The Rock, incorporate some form of physical activity. It just primes the physical self for the day.
All right, so mind, then body. Next up is mindset work or journaling. Now, this one feels like it could be anything from like deep philosophical reflection to just dumping thoughts onto a page. What's the common thread here in the sources?
The consistent theme seems to be that writing stuff down helps clear your head. It's presented as this really powerful way to sort of offload thoughts that might be creating mental clutter.
Mm.
Or you can use it to set clear intentions for the day, maybe process emotions. Some people use it for gratitude, others for brainstorming ideas, or even just, tracking their habits.
I remember reading somewhere, maybe it was Tim Ferriss, called it the most cost-effective therapy.
That quote is right here in the material.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really captures the essence of its utility, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Techniques like the classic morning pages, stream of consciousness pages written by hand,
Mm.
or more structured approaches like the 5-minute journal with specific prompts about gratitude and what would make the day great. Those are highlighted. It's often described as a game changer for just getting that mental clarity you need, especially before tackling complex stuff.
That makes sense. Dumping the mental noise to make space for clarity. Okay, what about the fourth element, goal setting or visualization? This sounds very forward-looking.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
The insight from these accounts seems to be that your mind, well, if you leave it undirected, it often defaults to distractions or
Yeah.
maybe worries.
Guilty.
Yeah, me too. So what these successful people apparently do is deliberately point their minds towards where they want to go. They visualize their goals, actually see themselves achieving them, sometimes even speak them aloud.
Like that famous Jim Carrey story, visualizing getting paid $10 million.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That story pops up in the sources as a really powerful illustration. How he supposedly wrote himself that check, carried it around, visualized cashing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then famously ended landing the role in Dumb and Dumber for exactly that amount. Now, whether it's causal or not, it's presented as an example of how visualization can help sort of wire your brain for success, build belief, create focus. And writing goals down daily just reinforces them. It's about consciously programming your focus, really.
Okay. And the final element then? Learning or reading. This one seems pretty straightforward, but how do the sources frame its importance? Is it just about acquiring information?
Well, yes, but they frame it more as a non-negotiable habit that signals a real commitment to continuous growth. The material describes these top performers often as voracious learners.
Right.
They actually make dedicated time, usually in the morning, to read books, articles, or listen to audiobooks and podcasts, specifically to stimulate their minds and soak up new ideas before the work demands take over.
You hear examples like Warren Buffett reportedly spending hours reading every day, or Bill Gates taking those famous reading vacations.
Exactly. And those examples are used to underscore the point. If individuals with that level of demand on their time prioritize learning, it really highlights its profound importance. But the point is also made that consistency is key. Even just reading 10 pages a day adds up.
Yeah, that's like 15, 20 books a year, easily.
Right. Or if you prefer audio, listening during a morning walk is presented as a fantastic way to just fuel your brain with new perspectives. It's about that proactive mental input before reactive output starts to dominate your day.
Okay, so that's the five-part blueprint drawn from these different accounts. It's interesting to see the common threads. How do some specific high achievers actually, weave these together? Let's look at some of the real-life examples mentioned in the sources.
Yeah, definitely. One prominent example is Hal Elrod, the author of The Miracle Morning. His whole system is basically built around these principles, structured using that acronym SAVERS.
Right, savers.
Yeah. Silence, which is meditation, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is journaling. The material notes this framework has really resonated and apparently helped thousands of people structure their mornings.
And Oprah's routine is also detailed, isn't it?
She starts with meditation, then follows that with a workout, and then apparently reads inspirational texts and writes in her gratitude journal. The source captures her approach with this great phrase: no emails, no chaos, just peace.
That really speaks to that protecting the space idea we talked about earlier.
Exactly. And then there's also that powerful sort of reflective example of Steve Jobs. The sources relate how he'd ask himself every morning, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today?
Wow.
Yeah. It's not a specific habit like journaling, but the material frames it as this practice for achieving deep alignment, basically ensuring his actions matched his deepest values. A kind of very profound morning mindset check.
And the examples aren't just limited to business or media, right? The sources mention athletes, too.
Absolutely. Athletes like Serena Williams and Kobe Bryant are highlighted as consistently being up before the sun, dedicating those early hours to training both their minds and their bodies. It really shows how these principles seem to span all sorts of different fields of high performance.
Yeah, it's clear the implementation varies, but those core elements often show up.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got the fundamental why, the five-element blueprint, and some pretty inspiring examples. But for someone listening right now, how do you actually go about designing your own routine? Because honestly, it can feel a bit overwhelming trying to build something like this from scratch.
That's a really key point the sources emphasize, actually. They explicitly state you don't need to block out like 3 hours every morning.
Yeah.
That's not the goal for most people.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah. Even dedicating a focused 30 to 60 minutes done intentionally in the morning is described as potentially life-changing. And they really stress that consistency over perfection is the real goal here.
Okay, consistency over perfection. I like that. So what are the practical steps they suggest for designing one?
Well, the material lays out a pretty straightforward 5-step process. Step 1 is just deciding on your intentional wake-up time. And it's not just about waking up early. It's about finding a time that gives you that quiet, protected space before the main demands of your day usually kick in. The key is waking up earlier than you normally might, but with a clear purpose for that extra time.
Got it. Step 2.
Step 2 is to choose, say, 3 to 5 habits from that list of 5 elements we talked about, meditation, journaling, movement, goals, reading. The advice is really to pick what genuinely resonates with you, or maybe just feels most achievable to start with. Don't bite off more than you can chew.
Okay, choose your habits. Then what?
Step 3 is about creating a simple sequence. The source actually offers a helpful example structure, like 6.0 a.m., wake up, drink water. 6.05, meditate for 10 minutes. 6.15, stretch, or do some light exercise. 6.30, journal, and maybe write down goals. 6.45, read or listen to something inspiring.
Ah, okay, like a template.
Exactly. It provides a concrete template you can adapt based on the habits you picked and the time you have.
And step 4 seems absolutely crucial for making this actually happen. Prepare the night before.
Yes, this comes up a lot. Set out your workout clothes, maybe lay out the book you plan to read, queue up your audiobook or podcast, make sure your space is ready. It just reduces friction when that alarm goes off, makes it easier to just do it.
Takes away the decision fatigue in the morning.
Precisely. And finally, step 5. Start small. Really small if you need to. Don't try to implement all 5 habits perfectly for an hour on day 1. The sources strongly advise beginning with just 1 or 2 habits. Build momentum first.
Okay.
Make it a comfortable part of your day, get that consistency going, and then you can think about expanding if you want to.
That step-by-step process definitely makes it feel, well, a lot more approachable. But even with that plan, what about the common hurdles? Like, what if you really feel like, ugh, I am just not a morning person?
Yeah, that comes up. The sources tackle this directly. They basically argue that the whole idea of being a morning person is less about your innate wiring and maybe more about trained behavior. The message isn't that you have to suddenly force yourself awake at 4 a.m. The goal is simply to wake up earlier than your usual, just enough to give yourself that intentional, purposeful time before the reactive part of the day begins. Even 15, 30 minutes earlier can be a great starting point.
Okay, so it's relative to your own schedule. And what if you're doing well for a bit and then you just fall off track? Life happens, you miss a day or maybe 2.
That's explicitly called out in these accounts as completely normal, expected even. The key, they stress, isn't about never failing. It's about the ability to just restart the very next day.
Ah, okay. Don't let one missed day derail everything.
Exactly. Consistency isn't about achieving a perfect streak. It's about getting back up and returning to the routine when you stumble. And they offer suggestions too, like maybe tracking your habits visually to build awareness, celebrating the small wins when you do stick to it, and finding ways to make the routine genuinely enjoyable. That helps you stick with it through the inevitable bumps in the road.
It really sounds like the underlying power isn't just about squeezing more into the morning hours, but more about what that morning practice helps you become throughout the day.
That's exactly it. The sources consistently reinforce that these habits aren't just about boosting productivity metrics in that first hour. They're more about cultivating a state of feeling more centered, more focused, maybe more resilient, more, alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that shift, that internal shift, fundamentally impacts your entire day and, cumulatively, maybe even the trajectory of your life.
Wow. So when you really think about it, if these small, consistent actions taken deliberately in the morning can seemingly compound into the kind of success and maybe groundedness we see in these examples, It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What potential lies dormant in the first hour of your day, just waiting for some deliberate cultivation?
That's the big question these sources seem to leave you mulling over. What's possible for you?
Right. So, for those of you listening who might be feeling ready to explore that potential, the source material offers a really clear, actionable challenge to get started.
Yeah. First, decide and actually set your intentional wake-up time for tomorrow morning. Just decide.
Second, choose maybe just 3 simple habits from that list we discussed. Keep it really manageable to start. Don't overcomplicate it.
Third, maybe write those 3 habits down somewhere visible. Commit to just trying them for the next 7 days, just a week.
Okay, 7 days, fourth.
Fourth, just track your consistency over that week. A simple check mark each day you do it. No judgment, just observation.
And fifth, at the end of those 7 days, take a moment to actually reflect. How do you feel? Have you noticed any subtle shifts, maybe in your energy, your focus, your mood during the day?
And for anyone who wants to maybe share their journey or connect with others trying this out, the sources mention using the hashtag Mindset Mastery Daily on social media.
Also, if you want to dive even deeper into these concepts, the material recommends several really solid books that build on these ideas. The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, obviously. Also, Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Great book.
Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Deep Work by Cal Newport. And The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Lots of good stuff there.
Yeah, all excellent resources. And for practical support, like actually implementing these habits, they suggest exploring apps. Things like Insight Timer, Calm, or Headspace for meditation, and also various habit tracking apps, which can be really helpful for monitoring your progress, especially in that first week.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into your source material today, the powerful message that really comes through quite consistently is this: your morning really can shape your mindset.
Mm,
And ultimately, your mindset shapes your life.
yeah. Start small, stay consistent. When you reinvent your morning, these accounts strongly suggest you might just start to reinvent your life. It's a powerful idea.